Hello, I'm Michael Verney and welcome along to the Indo GAA podcast with thanks to AIB. AIB is at the heart of Gaelic games across both club and county, and in 2025 they're celebrating a decade of sponsoring the All-Ireland Senior Football Championships. With this year's championship shaping up to be one of the most competitive in years, AIB is more excited than ever to bring fans closer to the action. Check out the hashtag #TheToughest for more. Hello and welcome to the Indo GAA Hurling Show. Delighted to be joined by John Mullane, and I don't know if you can see, but John is walking on a cloud after the Waterford Miners All-Ireland win on Saturday. John, we had the experience a couple of years ago, or sorry, last year it was, with the Offaly 20s, and I was literally going around on a cloud for about 2 months after. When you come from a county that's not, littered with success every year or every second year, it means a hell of a lot. And I know I saw a lot of the videos and the pitch invasion after. Ye boys are in great form now. Like, it's great to have the bit of hope, isn't it, going forward, that, good for you, this crop maybe could get through at senior, and who knows what could happen in 5 or 6 years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just after uplifting the whole county. There's, as you just touched on there, there's nothing like underage success, and knowing that what potentially could follow off the back of it. And look, as you alluded to there, you had it with the Offaly under 20s, and look, you were extremely unlucky with the Offaly minors, with the vast majority of the same group, but. I mean, this couldn't have come at a better time for Waterford hurling, and particularly, with our underage records the last couple of years, and it's not any way be disrespectful to the people or teams. We just probably haven't been good enough, and it hasn't been for the want of trying. But I suppose from early doors, I suppose. This group are kind of earmarked as being a special group, and that they could potentially kick on and achieve something big. And they achieved something big Saturday night. I mean, they were just fantastic the weekend.
Saved their best to last, Mull, as well, didn't they? Isn't it great when you save your best to last?
I mean, the score of the 118?
Yeah.
Conceded 10 points, conceded 5 points from play. And out of those 5 points, one of the scores just before half time was kind of a short free, and it was tapped over the bar. But to a man, every one of them 1 to 15. I mean, Cormac Spain. I mean, he got man of the match 11 points. You couldn't argue him getting man of the match. But I mean, you look at the back line. The backs were just all 6 backs were immense. The goalkeeper was solid. Young Comerford, midfield. O'Shea and Ian McHugh. Actually, Ian McHugh, he lives on my street. Lovely young chap.
What's that like, actually, Mull, when you have, because I saw it in my own club in Borough with the 20s and the minors, when kids in the locality have somebody that close by that they're seen on telly, or they're running out onto a pitch to after a game. Like, there's no heroes like local heroes.
Yeah, and he's kind of a quite chap, lovely chap, and the parents, lovely family, and his sister he's actually a twin. His sister plays camogie with us. His sister's actually a great athlete. I think she qualified for the Youth Olympics there 2 weeks ago. The mother Patrina was telling me, and
you're going to take over everything. Hurling, athletics, you name it. The day should be taken over.
Because he didn't partake in the Munster final, and then I went up and watched the Munster final against Cork, and then he was brought in, and the mother kind of said, "Jesus, Aina's playing," and I actually just went down and kind of wished him the best of luck. But he looked really calm even before the match, and. Even from my own club as well, the 2 powers, Connor and Shane, and Barrackeen, 3 super lads, 3 great lads, 3 lovely humble lads, great attitude, no egos, just get on with it. Even the 2 power twins, their grandfather would kind of live up by me. It's just Cody's Pond. It's just going down the hill. And even from a young age, I would have been kind of seeing these 2 lads, out banging the ball. Even from an early age, 6, 7 years of age. And as you're saying to the wife, I said, these two boys are going to be something special. And unfortunately, look, Shane had a very, very good final, as did Dara. Dara was exceptional cornerback as well, and really kind of felt sorry for Connor. You know, kind of the dynamics of that family. Because I was speaking to David, and you know, it must have been tough. You know, because Shane getting ready for a final, and then Connor missing out. But you know, I even text Connor myself. You know, it's only the start of the journey for them, and there'll be plenty more days ahead. And because he is like, to think that they had the success, you know, albeit Connor played a big part up to the Munster final, and even the Munster final, he was probably carrying the injury going into the Munster final. And you know, to think that they achieved the success without Connor Power, because I tell you, I really, really, really think the most of Conor Power, as I do Shane and Dara. So you know, to think that they had that success without Conor was, you know, it just goes to show you how much of a fabulous achievement it was. But you know, even the lads that came in, and look, as a whole, it takes a collective effort. Subs, even the as I touched on going into the semi-final, the lads outside of the 1 to 24, sometimes they're forgotten about. And even at the homecoming Sunday, it was lovely to see that, you know, their names were being called out as well. And but not alone that, like, I mean, it's as I touched on it, it's a testament to the management and the players that after that Munster final defeat to Cork, that they were able to go up a level and, you know, take down a very, very well-fancied Kilkenny team and go up another level again to take down a Clare team. And look, you can clearly see it. They were a very, very well-coached, well-drilled team. And I mean, it just goes to show you, even from Joxer's point of view, Joxer came in for, you know, under a 3-year term. It's probably going to be the new template in Waterford now going forward, where I'd say they probably will look at that template going forward, where probably look at a manager now taking over for 3 years rather than, you know, one man having him 1 year and the next fella coming in with coming in and taking him the year after. So you can't I wouldn't say progress, or you can't grow, but under this model with Joxer under the 3-year period, you could clearly see that how much they've grown in those 3 years. And you know, they had a couple of sticky results in year 1 and year 2, but by God, come year 3, they were totally ready to go and attack this minor championship. You know,
it's funny because James O'Connor, you're talking about there, Joxer, he'd no interest in the minor job. He'd always only managed adult teams. He brought Father O'Neill's in Cork to an All-Ireland intermediate final. He brought Ballyhale to an All-Ireland club final, and they obviously won a Leinster, and they won 2 Kilkennys along the way. And he said I was chatting to him last week, and he said, I had to be dragged into it, but I'm so happy that I was dragged into it. And the buzz he was getting off, you know, being over his own county and people coming up to him the whole time and all the goodwill. And listen, there's obviously some bad will as well when results aren't going your way, but when it turned around spectacularly. And I know I even texted him the other day, and he was getting a great buzz out. He just said they were all gone mad. The last thing on the minor, Mull, I've kind of flipped my opinion a small bit, and I know James O'Connor said it last week that he'd love to have the minor final back before the senior. And I always loved that growing up, because I just felt it added so much to All-Ireland final day, and I loved going in early and watching whatever was going to be, you know, the next big star, and whether it was 5, 6, 7, 8 years. I always loved that. I felt it added to the day. But when it's a standalone fixture and there's 16 plus thousand, like was at the other day, or 20 plus thousand like was at in Nolan Park, and you can have an invasion of kids and people onto the pitch after, it does add something different to it as well. So I'm not really sure kind of what I want now, but I like the idea of it being before the senior, and I think it's great exposure for the players and a great experience. But like, it's just pure mayhem in a great kind of way, isn't it, when it's standalone and it's nearly a free-for-all, and it's a different type of atmosphere in a smaller provincial ground.
Yeah, well, look, there's pros and there's cons for both arguments. For me, I would love to see it possibly go back to, you know, as a curtain raiser to the senior fixture on All-Ireland final in Croke Park. I mean, there's something special and unique about winning an All-Ireland in Croke Park. And look, obviously the 2013 group were able to experience that. And look, ultimately, the place you want to go and play as a kid and play when you push on in your career is Croke Park. And, if you can even go and experience an All-Ireland final, albeit at 16, 17 years of age in Croke Park, I think it stands you in good stead going forward for your adult years when you do push on and play at senior level. But even I thought his interview was class in the immediate aftermath, and even he was I think it was a very shrewd move bringing in Flinner and bringing in Tommy Ryan, adding to his backroom team. And even the likes of Flinner, Flinner's track record the last couple of years, you touched on Jocks or 3 All-Ireland finals. Flinner's been a part of an under-21 All-Ireland success, was part of the Camogie team that got to an All-Ireland final, and now he's managed to win to be part of an All-Ireland minor winning team. And definitely, I think even the way Jocks are even kind of, his words after the match and saying that, look, we need to mind these lads now going forward for the next 3 years. I think that was pleasing to hear, because you probably see it within your own county in Offaly. You've probably been rushed into kind of rushing through some of these lads and parachuting them straight into senior. And I wouldn't say it cost you this year in the under-20, but it probably didn't help you with this year's under-20 campaign. And I think maybe the main focus going forward for the next couple of years of Waterford, next 2 or 3 years with this group, is to push on and maybe focus on trying to win in under-20, because they're well good enough. And what we have then, I think there's potential for another good up and coming team in 2 years' time. Seemingly the 15s are a decent crop as well, because if you are to go and compete at senior, you need that mix. It's not off the back of just one team. And I think we've a great record with teams, with successful teams down to the years, that we maximise what we can out of All-Ireland winning teams. You only have to go and look at the 2013 Waterford winning minor team. I mean, we got a lot through off of that group. Anything up to 8 or 9 came through. And I would definitely be thinking with this current minor group, if they're nurtured right, we could see the same happening, and we could get anything up to 8 or 9. And there's definitely out of the 15, you will be thinking definitely any one of the 15. If they put their minds to it, they can push on and play senior hurling for Waterford, which is great.
Some people say it's the hope that kills you. I don't think it is. I think it's the hope that energises people, and it gets you up thinking, Jesus, yeah, in a couple of years, who knows where we could be around the top table. I know that was the biggest thing I took out of Offaly's success last year, and I'm sure it's the same with you.
But not alone that. I mean, it's the effect it has on the younger kids again. You've probably seen it with Offaly. I mean, our team would have probably, as I touched on, would have inspired Austin Gleeson's group. Now, Austin Gleeson's group, Jamie Barnes, Steve Mennett, they would have inspired this group. And even at the homecoming Sunday, to see so many kids around in Welsh Park, and great credit to the Waterford County Board. They put on a very, very good homecoming in Welsh Park. It was very well put together, and it was great to see a big crowd there to welcome him home. But even the knock-on effect it's going to have with even the likes of my own young fella, he's only 6-7 years of age, seeing a Waterford team winning All Ireland and bringing a trophy home back to Waterford. That can only bode well as well for the future,
He'd be doing some fist pumping out in the back garden, I'd say.
He's already doing it up training, Jesus.
Well, he didn't lick it off the ground, in all fairness. Mull, All-Ireland semi-final weekend, it's one of the best weekends in the calendar. Just before we go into the games, you've played in loads of All-Ireland semi-finals. What's the build-up like? Because nobody wants to be beaten in a semi-final. Like, it's just about getting over the line, isn't it? And making sure that you're part of the big day. You were part of the big day, obviously, once in your career. You must have, geez, I'm only thinking offhand here, you must have lost 4 or 5 semi-finals at least, did you? There's a different type of nervousness going into a semi-final, because at the end of the day, your end goal is just whatever means necessary, just cross this bridge and get to the biggest day. And that brings a certain pressure and nervousness to it as well.
You can go again. I think what they're playing was it involved in 8 or 9 8 or 9 semi-finals. Yeah, and we kind of have that kind of Mayo track record where we only managed to win one. And the one we probably did manage to win was probably the one we kind of, was going to come into the latter years of having that, that really good team. And I suppose, the Dave years came on. So, yeah, we found it extremely difficult to win All Ireland semi-finals. And as you touched on, they're difficult to win, and sometimes they're nearly harder to win than win a final. Well, look, I never pushed on and won the final. So, but they are a difficult fixture to win. And, it's just all about, getting over the line. If you have to scrape over the line, just get yourself into that final. And as you just touched on, it does bring pressure. And for the 4 teams the weekend, it probably has that kind of air of 2013 about it, albeit you have the 3 traditional counties, that are involved: Cork, Tipperary, Kilkenny. But those are 3 traditional counties that, haven't, had Lee McCarthy success in a considerable amount of time. You're talking Cork 20 years, Kilkenny 10 years, Tipperary, you have to go back to 2019, and then you throw in the Doves. I mean, it will be an unbelievable achievement if Dublin were to get over the line and to reach a first All-Ireland final in 1961. So for all 4 teams, they will be feeling the pressure the weekend, but I think there's different pressure for all 4. And when you break down all 4 teams, it's different for each 4.
Absence definitely makes the heart grow fonder, because there was probably a time there we were probably sick of watching Kilkenny and Tip in a way, but when they haven't played in 6 years and they haven't played since an All-Ireland final, and Richie Hogan was sent off the same day, James Owens was refereeing the same day, James Owens is refereeing again on Sunday. There's something about, it's nice when they haven't played in that length of time. This is the one I'm really looking forward to most anyway this weekend, because Kilkenny have obviously been here regularly and been at this stage regularly in the last couple of years, whereas Tip have kind of been a bit of a bolter this year, and you're kind of thinking, we don't know Tip's ceiling yet. We don't know how good they are at the minute. Maybe we probably didn't think that they would end up getting this far, but this is a tasty one on Sunday. And just, Eddie, who we chat to regularly, is down, relatively close to the border. It's funny actually, because Liam Cattle in Ballingarry is right on the border. Derek Ling down in Urlingford is right on the border as well. So they know this rivalry only too well, and it's a tasty enough rivalry, even though they're cross-county and cross-provincial.
Yeah, but it's interesting. You say it's 6 years. Like, are we missing the beat here in and when I go back to it again with the championship structures, that 2 traditional powerhouses like a Tipperary or Kilkenny haven't met in 6 years. That's too long for me. But going back to it, it's a tasty fixture. I'm actually covering that game myself the weekend. It's one fixture I can't wait for. When you look at the previous fixtures that have gone by, 2019, 2016, 2014, we've had some epic games. I mean, and you throw in then the kind of the minor final last year, the under-20 final this year, and it's hard to believe that Kilkenny hasn't beaten Tipperary at any grade in quite some time. And you're just thinking to yourself, will that change Sunday? As you just touched on, we're asking the questions, what Tipperary team are going to turn up? How are they going to deal with today? how are they going to approach the day? In contrast to Kilkenny, who have been, they've been here the last couple of years. Played in a couple of finals. They know the surroundings of Croke Park, as we just touched on before. Croke Park is like a second home to them. They're playing this year's Leinster final. They'll probably have the hurt of last year as well, off the back of that as well. They'll probably feel that last year against Clare, they were in a commanding position. Probably should have been, as we just touched on in previous podcasts, that they should have been possibly out of sight in that fixture against Clare last year. So I think that will probably be a motivating factor. It'll be a big drive for Derek Ling and his team the weekend in trying to get over the line and get back to a final. And then, as you just touched on, Tipperary, they're on the county are on the crest of a wave. To think of where they've come in such a short space of time under Liam Cahill. You go back to 12 months ago. I mean, they could barely get any supporters inside the gates of Thurles to go and support them when they play Cork in that Munster round robin game. And here they are now. They won the minor. They won the under 20. He's after kind of re-energizing the team with a sprinkle of all these young lads. They're shooting the lights out. They look good on the eye. And there's a buzz back around Tipperary hurling again, and it just sets it up beautifully for Sunday. How do I see it going? I mean, there's one sure thing that both myself and yourself know, is that Kilkenny will turn up on All-Ireland semi-final day and they will perform. That's a given. And even if they don't perform and they're probably a small bit off, 10% off, 20% off, they'll be still very difficult to beat, as we seen last year. And look, you go back when they have been beaten and all, they're a very difficult team to beat on All-Ireland semi-final day, because as you touched on, they have that bit between their teeth. They realise that they're only 70 minutes away from the big day of where any GAA player wants to be, and that's All-Ireland final day. And I think that's where they roll up the sleeves even more. And I would expect they will do the same Sunday. I think they'll roll up the sleeves. They'll have the bit between their teeth, and I think they will be difficult to beat. And ultimately, it all hinges on what Liam Cahill and his team are going to bring to the table Sunday.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting, even more interesting, with Limerick out. It mightn't be something that's spoken about, but surely the four teams are like, Jesus, like, what an opportunity here. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it mightn't be something that's spoken about in the dressing room, but I'm sure lads individually, when Limerick were beaten, they were like, okay, like you're almost hit, and you're like, look at what's in front of us. Look at the possibilities of what's there. And it's going to be fascinating to see how the four teams kind of, adapt or deal with that kind of. No, it's not. Maybe it's a different type of pressure now, because it's like it's all kind of opened up for maybe some teams, maybe you think. But just something, Mull, you were saying there, for the likes of, we'll say, Robert Doyle, Sam O'Farrell, Darragh McCarthy, even like Brian O'Mara and a couple more, Owen Connolly, etc. This will be their first time playing a game of any magnitude in Croke Park. Can you remember your first time playing in Croke Park and how much different it was and how daunting it was maybe compared to somewhere else? What's that like, the first occasion, even the journey up, the Garda escort in, the dressing rooms, the looking out, walking around before the game? What's that all like? What sort of an experience is that like?
Yeah, it's totally different. It's totally different to playing in Thurles, the Gaelic grounds. Even when I was playing the old Páirc Uí Chaoimh, going to the hotel beforehand, as you just touched on, the guard escort down. Even coming into Croke Park can be kind of a small bit daunting as well. And I suppose then when you kind of you go into the dressing rooms, it's kind of bigger expansive area. And then when you kind of go out and you kind of look around the pitch and you kind of see this massive coliseum and you kind of go, oh, Jesus, it's it can be very, very challenging. It can be extremely challenging. And
Did it get to you at any stage? Like a lot of lads say, the first time they played in Croke Park, the occasion and the whole thing just got the better of them, and you're almost like the game flies past because it's all so new. Was that your experience in your first time playing there?
Yeah. My first time was we played there in 2002, and we played against Clare. And we came off the back of a very, very good Munster campaign. We beat Tipperary in the Munster final, and obviously then what we found extremely difficult was the gap. And back then it was the 6 week gap. Now look, Cork, be interested in how Cork over the weekend with trying to manage that 4 week gap. But for us, we were coming in off the back of the 6 week break, and never played in Croke Park before, and then you're coming up against a really experienced team like Clare, who had the likes of Frank Lone, Brian Lone, James, he was still there, Ollie Baker, who had some great days in Croke Park. And
I can remember that. I can remember that game. It's funny what you remember. I remember my parents were at the Tullamore show the same day, and everyone was so surprised. Like Clare threw everything at you and all their experience. And I can actually remember that game. It's funny because you were expected to get to the All Ireland final that year and possibly even go and get the ultimate at the end of it all.
Yeah, and it was experience that got Clare over the line that day. It was experience that got Clare over the line that day. Then look, we got back there in 2004. I was suspended for 2004, 2006. We came up short against Cork by a point. We actually beat Tipperary in the All Ireland quarter final, and then we beat Cork in 2007. So 2007, and then we got beaten by Limerick in the All Ireland semi-final. So yeah, we kind of had mixed days there, really, because you quarter-finals are played there and semi-finals are there, and that's probably going to be, as I said, that is going to be the challenge for some of these Tipperary players who haven't played there before. They'll either take to it like a duck to water, or they'll find it daunting, and they might, for periods of the match, it might seem a little bit different, as I touched on, in contrast to going out to Thurles, where you're playing there every week, and you're so used to the surroundings. Even running out for a ball, even out to the sideline where the Cusick stand or the Hogan stand, the seats are nearly on top of you. And when you haven't experienced it before, it can be very, very testing. And you contrast that to a Kilkenny team that they're coming up against, who it's like going out in their back garden. They know every blade of grass, they know every corner, they know every channel to play into. They're so used to the surroundings, they've been there, done it before. They know what's ahead of them. They know what's what way to play the first 15 minutes. They know how to play the second quarter. They know what's going to come at after half time, and then they know what way to go and close out a match. So yeah, that's why I would be probably a small bit leaning towards Kilkenny winning this match. As I just think they have that bit of experience, and it might be a year too soon for Tipperary,
Mull, what do you make of, it's kind of been in the background and hasn't been spoken about much, but the day that David Herity might have feared could crop up is happening on Sunday. He's obviously played for Kilkenny, born and raised Kilkenny. Kilkenny goalkeeper, long standing, and now he's in, and he was goalkeeping coach last year under Liam Cahill. Now he's I believe he's nearly sharing duties with Michael Beavens, and he's coming up against his own Kilkenny in Croke Park. There's no point in saying any different. It is an awkward scenario. I know Henry probably made it a lot less awkward for a lot of people by going to Galway and that, but it's a difficult enough scenario. He's wearing a Tipperary top, or a Tipperary crest on his chest. Like it's an interesting little sideshow to Sunday as well.
Yeah, well, look. He's got to do what he's got to do. I mean, Jesus. I mean, he's trying to better himself, and to be, I suppose he's had aspirations to push on, and maybe, possibly one day, probably be Kilkenny be Kilkenny manager, because he's after doing some great work, as we've seen with the Dublin Camogie and the Kilkenny or the Kildare hurlers. And when you're given that opportunity, you sometimes you have to grasp that opportunity. And look,
would you be able to do it? Would you?
I wouldn't do it. I'll be straight with you. I wouldn't do it. I
Yeah.
wouldn't. It wouldn't be in me to do it.
I mean this. I know you well, John. I think you'd be too emotional to do that.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Look, geez, I love doing what I'm doing at the moment. I'm just up giving a hand with the club, and I go down one night a week down to Wexford, and I have a lovely balance as well. And hopefully when as I touched on, when the two smallies get a little bit earlier, I'd love to get back involved with Waterford underage teams. That I would aspire to that. I would find it hard, but other lads, would I hold it against other lads going out and training other counties to try and beat my own county? Absolutely not. One of my best friends when I was playing on the Waterford team would have been Tony Brown, and I seen firsthand how good Tony Brown was. And when Tony Brown was probably the one most unluckiest fella probably within Waterford is probably being Tony in regards timing. When he was with Liam Cattle, and then Liam went after 1 year, and then Liam asked him to go up to Tipperary, and Tony went up to Tipperary. Would I think any different to Tony Brown? Absolutely not, because Tony is probably like David Herity. He wants to go up. He wants to learn, and
it's ultimately to be the best you can possibly be when you're over your own county or involved with your own county, isn't it?
Absolutely, and you even see Tony would have went up, and he would have been of the opinion, I want to better myself, and then I think that's only a good thing, because look at Tony now. He came back the last 2 years with the under-20s with Waterford, and by all accounts, the lads thought he was brilliant. I did 1 year with Tony with the 20s in 2015, and he was brilliant now, absolutely brilliant. So look, from a Kilkenny point of view, obviously there'll be a few people within the county that wouldn't take too kindly to a lad going and giving a county like Tipperary a hand, as of probably similar down in Kerry with Donny going up to Armagh. You could probably even see that, in the aftermath of the match, how happy some of the Kerry management team were in beating Armagh. But even you look at Donny with Armagh, I think that's going to help Kerry going forward for future years, because Donny will come back and get involved with Kerry teams, I'd imagine, and I think that will be very beneficial for Kerry going forward. So I think it's a win-win in the long run. Obviously, as I said, with these traditional counties, they can take it up the wrong way,
Yeah. Just any matchups in particular from that game you're looking forward to? I'll be very interested to see what Tip do with TJ as well, and who picks him up, and whether someone follows him around, whether it's Breen. They have lads that can probably go physically toe-to-toe with him, the likes of Breen, the likes of Brian O'Mara, likes of Owen Connolly, potentially Ronan Maher as well.
Ronan Maher, if you go and look at the games in the months around Robin, any big lad who's good who has that good aerial ability about him, Ronan Maher has been designated to go and pick him up. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if Ronan Maher is designated to pick up TJ. I think the big one for Kilkenny the weekend is if Richie Reid is start centre back, and the way Richie likes to sit in the pocket, sit in front of the D. You go back to when Waterford played Tipperary, where Tig was sitting in front of the D, and the movement of Ormond and Jake Morris, they kept interchanging. One would go out the wing forward, one would come back into the centre. And that caused Waterford problems, because, I mean, when you have a sitting centre back, you don't know where to pick or you know where to follow. And I think that will be kind of a, that will be throwing it over to Derek Lingle. What are you going to do if that does happen? Because Jake Morris and Ormond, their movement is incredible, and they are causing problems for opposing defences. I suppose the big one is going to be midfield then as well. I think that's been a big battle. Keane Kenny, Jordan Malloy, Willie Connors. It will be interesting to see who will partner Willie Connors.
Experience, I'd say, Mull. I'd say he goes with experience.
Yeah. Well, it will be interesting as well. Do you start Noel McGrath or do you hold him?
Oh, I think you hold him.
I throw it back to you. I mean, they've been very, very shrewd in how they've used Noel McGrath during this championship campaign. You go back to up in Ennis, they gone into the lines then. They decided to start Noel McGrath. Now, Liam Callum might say to himself, well, look, we might be better off to start Noel McGrath, given his experience and playing in Croke Park and, just to kind of have that little calm presence around, particularly for some of these young lads. So they might say to themselves, well, look, we're going to run with Noel and we'll try and get 45 minutes in, 50 minutes into Noel, and then maybe change it up. And look, who knows? Noel might last the whole game. And they might be saying to themselves, well, look, we need to start. We need to be in this game. We need to start quickly, and we need to stay in this game as long as possible and try and bring this Kilkenny team down the home stretch.
What would be very interesting, Mull, is if, say, they went with a half-forward line of Jake Morris, Andrew Ormond and Noel McGrath, and you have Noel asking completely different questions than the other two lads ask. Now, that would be interesting. I understand where you're coming from the experience side as well. It could be invaluable to have him in from the start. At the end of the day, there's no point in holding a fella if you're chasing a game. Do you know what I mean? So maybe they'd be better off trying to get the guts of an hour out of him and been in the game, and then maybe he makes way or whatever. But Mull, I do want to get into the other semi-final because I want to give it the due respect that it deserves. Can Dublin back up what they did the last day against Limerick? There was no expectancy going into that Limerick game. There's a nice little bit of expectancy going into this game now. They obviously start with 15 now. Maybe that's a problem. Maybe they need somebody to be on the line after 15 minutes to get as much as they did out of themselves the last day. But can they back up what they produced the last day?
Absolutely they can. Absolutely. And look, probably this is probably as we keep using the word challenge for both Kilkenny and Tipperary. It's the one challenging thing for this Dublin team, and we've seen it time and time again where they come with one good performance. And you probably have to go back to probably 2013 under Dalo, where they followed, where they've been consistent, where they've backed up a good win with another good win. You go back to that Leinster success in 2013 where they beat Galway. No, sorry, they beat
Kilkenny.
They drew with Kilkenny, beat Kilkenny in the replay, and then they actually overpowered Galway. Did they Galway 8 or 9 points?
Yeah, they beat them well. It was nearly double figures, I think. Yeah,
beat them well, and the semi-final they were extremely unlucky. But yeah, I think that's the one challenge for this Dublin team. Can they go and back it up? And I think they can. I think they'll be brewing with confidence. I think they'll be feeling good within themselves going into this All-Ireland semi-final off the back of that Limerick win. And off the back of that Limerick win for, let's be honest about it, Verney. They went and beat Limerick. Like what gets lost in all this is that it was a phenomenal achievement because they went and won that All-Ireland quarter-final with 14 men for nearly 50 odd minutes against the Green Machine. So that is they're going to be this week, they're going to be feeling really good in themselves, and they're going to be saying, right, if we can bring the same energy, get the matchups right, if we can get off to a good start, stay in this match for as long as we can, why not? Why can't they pull it off?
Yeah.
Why can't they pull it off? And I think, I think, and I'm not being any way disrespectful to the Dublin footballers, I think the fact that now the Dublin footballers are kind of gone out of the championship now, they'll be big growth towards these Dublin hurlers, and I expect to have a good following behind him Saturday night.
I have to say I was disappointed. Dublin were the only one of the 4 teams that didn't do a press event to build up to the semi-final, which I actually think is really disappointing, because there's a chance to get all these faces out there that the greater Dublin hurling public do not know, and I think they missed the trick there. I wouldn't have gone mad about it, but I would have put lads out there and let the heroes of the future, the players of the future of Dublin, see these people and hear from them. That's my only gripe with it. But one question I have for you: would you start John Herton? Because if you're talking about staying in the game, being very physical, very robust, maybe trying to nab a goal or two, I think he starts, because I think it's do you know what I mean? It's different. And when he came on the last day, I just thought he was unreal the last day. He fronted up physically. He obviously got his goal. It was a ridiculous goal, standing on the end line nearly. But remember him knocking Dermot Burns back on the ground. I remember every time Dan Morrissey got the ball, he was able to hold him up. And I just think the value of someone like that from the start is massive. I also think, like, if you're going to get at Cork a player like Herton, who's not too dissimilar to, we'll say, a Peter Duggan, I think he's the type of player that could potentially run wreck just physically, and even with aerial ball. I'd definitely be starting him.
Oh, I totally agree with you. Absolutely. And for me, I think you can't wait till the 50 a minute or 45th minute, because, I mean, 2 games never play out the same.
Yeah.
They very rarely play out the same. So you can't be predicting that Dublin are going to be there with 45 minutes or 50 minutes, and they're going to be in the same position they were against Limerick. I think you've got to go at this thunder and bolts right from the start, right from the get-go, and I will be totally in an agreement with you. I will be starting them, because let's be honest about it, the one area where Cork have struggled this year is a big man on the edge of the square. You go back to Mullane in the Munster final. You go back to Peter Duggan. I mean, I was even saying Waterford nearly should have thrown Austin Gleeson in full forward. And look, he gives you that outlet to go and mix it up. You can go long, you can go short, you can play it through the lines, and it gives the Dubs a different dynamic of being able to go to mix it any way they want. And Jeff, for me, he starts all day long.
From a Cork point of view, Mull, this is just a hurdle that they have to get over, isn't it? They just have to get over by any means necessary. The pressure is on them. They're fully expected to win this game by the vast majority of the hurling public. And I think Seamus Harney's out with a hamstring injury, which is definitely a loss, particularly his experience in Croke Park. But they just have to climb this hurdle no matter what, don't they? Just get into that final by whatever means necessary.
I think the one thing that will actually help Cork, and I think Dublin have actually done Cork a massive favour. It's not obviously by beating Limerick and taking Limerick out, and I think Cork will be delighted that Limerick are out of the way. But I think they'll be more focused in the job ahead. There'll be no air of complacency. They most certainly won't take this Dublin team for granted. If they go back 12 months ago when both these sides met in Thurles after such a slow start, in this fixture last year, Dublin came with a late surge, and they posed an awful lot of problems for Cork in the closing stage of that match, and probably the clock was on Cork's side that day. And I think Dublin are a way better side than they were 12 months ago, as I do Cork. So. Yeah, I just think, I think the odds even going into this match, I think they're a bit false, really. I don't see Cork as being 1-7 on shots. And I just think from a Cork point of view, it's just whatever way you win this match, just get the job done. If it's by a point, 2 points, 3 points, you get the job done, you get into that final, and you're 70 odd minutes away from bringing Liam McCarthy back to Leeside,
Call your finalists, Mull.
Well, look, I said from the get-go, I thought Cork would possibly go on and clean up and win everything. They've won 2 out of the 3. I thought they'd struggle in the Munster final. But I'm going to stick with Cork. And I'm going to go with the Kilkenny experience to get them over the line. But if I was having a charity bet, or if you said, give me €20 or €50 to have in one team, who would be the value bet right now? I would be thinking Kilkenny at 7-2. I think they're the value bet. But yeah, I'm going to go for a Cork Kilkenny final.
Mull, just the last one. You went viral over the weekend. Your ability to go viral it's beyond belief, really. But you ended up in Glastonbury, not physically, but you were there in print. There's a flag going around of your famous interview. And you and your buddy beside you there in the interview, he'd been interviewed by Tony O'Donoghue, and it said, the flag reads, "I love me flag. The people of Glastonbury are my life." You must never tire of this kind of thing coming up. It's gas.
But look, it's you know what? I think I've seen a picture of the two people holding up the flag, and it's lovely. And geez, I'm extremely honoured. Jesus, to be rocking up at Glastonbury. I'd be a big Glastonbury fan now. I thought it was very disappointing this year. Now I'd be like you now with the wrestling or whatever. You sit down and watch the wrestling. I love Glastonbury now. That'd be kind of my kind of, lad that sit down and watch the Masters over the whole weekend. I'd tape Glastonbury if I'm out. I'd tape it, and then I'd come in and have a couple of glasses of wine or a couple of bottles of beer. But I thought this year now the lineups were fairly poor. So from what I believe, they're taking there's a gap year next year.
Here, quickly, Mull, give me your one recommendation. Who should be main event? Who should be main event in Glastonbury next time it's on? If it's 2027, who would John Mullane have on the main stage?
Well, look. To be fair, the three previous years, the Pet Shop Boys were brilliant. I think the best one I've seen so far was Elton John. Thought he was amazing, and then Coldplay were super. I think they missed the beat this year. For me, I think they should have started off the Oasis reunion should have started off as the closing set on the Sunday in Glastonbury, and then went on their UK tour or their world tour. I'd be strange as someone as cheesy as someone as Take That or something along those lines, because it's Glastonbury is kind of it's a different crowd. It's kind of an older crowd. It's kind of you don't kind of have kind of a many kind of a young audience. So
nothing cheesy about Take That, Mull. I went to see them in Croke Park, and there was nothing cheesy about it.
Well, no, geez, I actually like a lot of their songs. So yeah, I'd say definitely within the next 2 years, if there's a gap year next year, they're definitely going to come up with something really, really tasty to get the appeal back again,
You heard it here first. Take That for Glastonbury 2027 from John Mullane. John, thanks a million. We'll chat to you again next week.
On the ball, Verney.